That one's an easy one. Professional appearance? Okay. But what about it? Thank you. Nice tie. Come on, let's go deeper. Successful. Educated. Corporate. Come on, this is your chance to really hit me. Come on. Everything's... Old white guy. Old white guy. Privileged. All right. There we go. Come on. Let's get deeper. Come on. I know it's there.
Need glasses.
I'm sorry?
Glasses.
He's nearly blind. And I'll take a deeper meaning to that. Come on. So everybody here, that's it? That's what you're saying to us? What's that? Heterosexual. Wealthy.
Self-confident.
Self-confident. Prejudiced. Yep. Okay. Yep. Let's keep going. What's this guy's hobby? What does he do? Golf. Hokey. All right. Yeah. Come on. More assumptions. What's he like? Conformist. Republican. You know, I was going to probe you on that one. Come on, politics. Let's get down and get dirty. Republican. And that's loaded, right? Conservative. Yep. Family. Probably has a white fence around the house, couple of dogs. A wife that comes, "Hi, honey, I'm so glad you're home. Cookies are ready. Can I take your slippers? The evening news is starting. Dinner will be ready shortly." Homeowner. He's heavy in real estate. Sports car. Okay. Yeah, he has toys because he's middle-aged and now he's starting to figure out that he can't go backwards. Come on, what else? I'm sorry? I'm a grandparent? Old. Emphasis added. Old. Okay, grandparent.
You've got kids in good schools.
Yep. Okay, kids in good schools. Okay, socially, what are you saying? Want to hang out with this guy? Country club. Holds the wine glass this way, upside down. Country club. Personality, country club. Right? That says a lot. Country club. Old boy, sitting around, his risky evening is playing poker with the guys and maybe having a cigar, right? So old boy network.
You're probably on the boards of lots of community organizations.
And on those boards so that I could tell other people that I'm on the boards, really, not because I'm really into the cause. Resume. Okay, WASP. Yep. Socially conservative. All right, okay, good list. Excellent. I'll read them to you. Just a couple. You were right on the golf. I won't tell you about my politics. Poet, drummer in a rock band, R&B. Played a gig last weekend. You think I dress like this? Nah. World traveler. If I asked you before, where do you think this guy vacations? Outer Banks, maybe? Got the khakis on, button-down shirt. Europe. The African bush. Stay in apartments in different cities. We don't stay in hotels. Knapsacks. World traveler. Stand-up comedian. You'll have to come to another event on that one. The firm still uses me. Latin percussionist. Anybody know what soca is? Close. You're in the West Indies. Soca is a mixture of soul and calypso. It's indigenous to Trinidad. A very close friend who is from Trinidad. He works in the technology group at Citicorp. He's from Trinidad. He found out I'm a percussionist. We hit it off. We're good friends. And yours truly has danced through the streets of Trinidad during Caravana, praying to high heaven that CNN didn't pick it up because I didn't want the rest of the firm to see, is that Lasik? Going. So I do this for a reason. This exercise we just went through. Anything good that happened there? Is anything wrong? What's your reaction to what we just went through? I'm a Renaissance man. Yeah, I mean, there's some simple. Now, let me ask you this. Do I have anything to do with your assumptions that the list we created before? Do I have anything to do with that? Of course. I'm communicating to you. I mean, I didn't wake up this morning and go, oh, yeah, I'll just throw the club clothes on that I play the drums with. You know, it's Friday. No, I thought about what I was going to wear. So it's not an issue that is just one-sided, right? I mean, people, and there is a lot to be said about that means of communication. I'm trying to educate my kids on that right now. They're going through life, they're changing. There are historical experiences that people have. When they look at you, they give you credit for what you're projecting to them, right? You're making a statement. Most people are, to varying degrees. You get up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you say, what do I look like? And what do I want people to think when they look at me? So it's a means of communication, and that's a positive thing. So people saying, well, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, you know, it was an old saying that I really like from Benjamin Franklin. That's, you know, everything in moderation. There is no absolutes. If it's absolute, it's easy. So don't ever judge anyone by what you see in front of you. That's silly, right? That's silly. I'm absolutely communicating something to you. I'm communicating a lot of those things that you listed earlier. I wasn't intending to communicate these things by the way I dressed today. Now, I didn't go dancing through the streets of Trinidad dressed like this because I wanted to communicate something else. We're going to talk, this is one aspect of, or dimension of, the whole topic of diversity and inclusiveness. This is the physical appearance issue that we deal with in the workplace and we deal with in the marketplace. And we're going to talk about some of that as we get into this. But on the front end, I do want to thank everyone for posting today. It's always a pleasure for us at Ernst Young to come back to campus, for me personally to come back to campus. I have Ashley Perry with me and Sarah Leone from our Charlotte office. Ashley is one of our up-and-coming recruits that's going to be starting with us. We've done a number of presentations here at Tech in the past. Always a pleasure to have these folks with me. A little bit of background on myself, and then we're going to get into some of this discussion. I'm sure you were sitting there going, oh, really? They sent an old white guy to talk about diversity and inclusiveness. I am a tech grad from 1986, currently in the firm. I'm a member of the Global Real Estate Leadership Group. I headed up hospitality. I've been fortunate to serve global clients my entire career. Marriott International, Gannett, which is USA Today, and a host of others. I'm a member of the Global Account Network and heading up a new service line for the firm in the eastern U.S. All of that means nothing other than those roles have taken me to the far reaches of the earth. And it has forced me to have to understand other people, understand their perspectives, understand their customs, understand what makes them tick. And it's also given me appreciation as we sit here in the United States and watch our own population transforming and changing in front of our very eyes. It's given me an appreciation for a lot of the dynamics that we have to be sensitive to, if you will, so that we can ultimately work effectively together. Before we move on in terms of the agenda, there's my friends in the stratosphere of Ernst Young always do a good job of putting together great PowerPoints. Some people are scripted. You'll find out very quickly I'm not. I like to float all over the place and have a conversation with people. But the key topics we wanted to discuss here today, why diversity and inclusiveness is important, get some perspectives from a few of our folks, really give you an opportunity to lob some questions into us. I know there were some questions that were surfaced early on that Nicole had shared. I think they're outstanding, and hopefully we can talk through a lot of those. And then talk about some of the things that we can share with you, some of the things we do as a global organization on this front, and really foster some dialogue and hopefully get you guys thinking about your own situation here at Virginia Tech. We're very proactive because it's very important to our organization. We're very proactive working with schools to share what we're doing. It doesn't mean all of our objectives are aligned. You have some different objectives compared to what we do as a business, but a lot of the concepts and the issues are very, very real and similar. And so we want to share that and support where we can the institution. Before you can really get in and talk about why it's important, and my great people up top put together all kind of background information on E&Y. Before I get into all of that, or these are some obvious things, it's a global world, right? Okay. Oh, Ernst Young's really big and we're all over the world. Okay. So now I'm not going to sit there and just spew this stuff. Let's start with, what do we mean by this issue? What do we mean? What is this an important issue? I mean, I hear a lot of people talk about it, right? And I'm one of those old white guys in the firm where all this stuff starts coming down. It was a little bit different when I was starting, right? So you got to decide to yourself, is it important? What is this issue about? Come on, hands. You guys, what is it about? What's it about at Tech for you guys? Okay, all right. So understanding more than the physical appearance, getting beyond that to understand different people. Let me get a little more practical in the question. What does it mean what are you going to do about this issue? What are you trying to do at Tech? What's the issue? Make everyone feel welcome. All right. Connected. Welcome. Assimilation. And what do you mean by that? You want to change everyone to change people's behavior to?
No, but we want those coming from, say, international students or students of mixed gender to be comfortable in the environment here and find folks that they can assimilate with so they're successful.
Okay. But what about, okay, diversity and inclusiveness, but what do you mean by education around what? Okay, fair enough, but I want to challenge you. What's the issue? What is the issue? Do we have a problem? Do we need to do anything? Is there an issue? What is the issue? Yeah.
We are not diverse enough, and we have trouble keeping diverse faculty and diverse students. And the world is diverse. We need to join that world.
Okay, so fair enough. Our population that's here and moving through the process doesn't reflect the outside world, not diverse enough. So just the raw numbers, right? Is it raw numbers? Is the issue raw numbers? I can get you numbers, by the way. I know, but I'm just trying to figure out what it is that you're trying to get right. Retention. Okay, we want retention of, well, first of all, coming into the university, you getting the people you want? Are they coming in? However you define diversity? Okay, so we're not getting the numbers to start with. And then when they're here, we're not retaining? I could retain people too. That's not a terribly difficult thing. I could put together programs that could retain all kind of people.
I think Virginia Tech, both in the student population and in the employee area, we can become better by understanding the more diverse population of the world and by recruiting and retaining students. We can learn, and employees, we can learn from them.
Okay, all right, so true. So is the issue, I could go overseas and bring you a bunch of educators that are very diverse. They'll teach you. I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to highlight and get thoughts from you. All of these are absolutely on point and legitimate, by the way. This isn't it's right or it's wrong. I'm just trying to, these are all absolutely on point, legitimate observations. Yeah.
And you're asking what's the issue. To me, the issue is recognizing that diversity, validating those experiences, valuing the diversity. So, you talk about bringing people in and worried that they're leaving
Mm-hmm.
people who voices are rarely heard.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah, I was going to echo that because I think that gets to the root of it. It's valuing those different perspectives and viewpoints. So it's not just an understanding, but truly at the end of the day, valuing that
mm-hmm.
in the context of decision making. So I think that's really kind of the challenge. So where the rubber hits the road.
Okay. Valuing those other perspectives.
And that being the guide for decision making in the context of whatever the organization is. So, here for Virginia Tech, if it's a mission, a value, or mission or value that we have, truly we use that as a guide or a lens by which
Yep.
we make, decisions.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I want to challenge you. No. Those are all. That's fair enough. Legitimate observation. I want to challenge you on this. What is the issue? And we have a lot of elements of the issue here. And then what are we trying to accomplish? Right? So, because then you can make decisions about how you're going to go at it and change the world if you want to change the world.
Well, in the business of educating students, people, individuals. So that's our mission as a university.
Yeah.
So if we're going to interject the diversity inclusion kind of piece into that, so educating those folk, to be, mindful of diversity and inclusion, in their training and in their discipline, as they go out into the real world.
Okay. All right. So educating those people that the world is diverse, that there's a lot of different. Okay. Fair enough.
One thing that comes to mind is how you started the presentations about parents.
Yeah.
Even the appearance that Virginia Tech is giving to others is something that we need to look at. And because I know when talking to people that don't come here, it's because of what they perceive Virginia Tech to be or not be.
Yeah. Okay. So they're doing the same thing, and very legitimate. It's human behavior. It's a way of the world. We don't, from a practical standpoint, have time to go interview Dan Lasik to find out if he's really written poetry or plays the drums. Now, if I'm standing here before you in a club outfit with a shirt on that says Zildjian, the greatest cymbals in the world, you might go, hey, he might be a drummer. I mean, there's a practical issue, and it serves a very legitimate purpose, right?
But is that the appearance that they want them to have, is what I'm concerned about. You're dressing like this
Yeah.
because of the audience that you're trying to work with, or from the organization that you're coming from. So you're not going to come here dressed in your Calypso outfit because maybe
I might. But no, you're absolutely right. There's a certain context, and there's some norms, and there's something I wanted to project.
so
And
what does Virginia Tech want to project?
fair enough. What image, and that can be a way to get at whatever you're really trying to accomplish, right? Other thoughts?
I guess my thought is, I wonder if some of these are just a lip service. I wonder if talking about diversity is just a lip service. Because, in my experience with a lot of people that I've worked with, when it comes down to it, when they have situations, it doesn't break down that easily. All this awareness isn't necessarily really.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, you could have people be very sensitive to the topic and say, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But then the question is, where does that go, right? Which is kind of what I'm trying to get at here, right? I mean, we could sit in round tables and have discussions ad nausea, and I have no debate with you. Say, absolutely. People around me, I love this topic. I love learning about other cultures and talking about it. You're absolutely right. And then we walk out the door. So I guess the practical question, because I'm in a business, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing, And these same types of conversations have been held over and over again within our organization and continue to be held in our organization because we have to make decisions about what we're going to wake up and do tomorrow. And so the point I'm trying to make here, trying to highlight is this is a complicated factor. It's an incredibly complicated issue. And you will have people that will come at it from a lot of different perspectives. Because everything that was said in this room is absolutely on point. Let's take it another step toward the practical. And let's get down to concrete goals. Do we want more numbers in the school of people that come from different backgrounds? Now we're talking about this is something specific that we want to do. Now you're going to have legitimate debates with people in this community and elsewhere about whether that should be done and how it should be done, right? Is there an easy answer? Would it be great to have a more diverse student body? Oh, it would? I got some people that say maybe it wouldn't. We get into this all the time in the business world when we talk mission and strategy. You get companies that get too diversified in what their makeup is, they lose sight of their mission. Human behavior is no different. So, well, if I get too many people in here from different perspectives and then we just spin and spin and spin and we're not moving toward our mission. We want laser-focused people. There are clearly some attributes to become a Navy SEAL. They don't just take everybody, right? My only point is it's an incredibly complicated issue and there are no easy answers around it. And there's legitimate viewpoints from all different sides. You guys threw some questions in that I had a chance to look at. You know, outstanding. Is there even an issue? Should we have people that aren't as qualified that get accepted because, for whatever reason, because of for diversity's sake? Some would say absolutely. Because diversity is the world that we're going to walk out and interact with, and that objective trumps these other issues. And that'll be a healthy debate that people will have. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, Ernst Young cracked the code, flip the page and goes, here it is. This is the right answer, and here's how we went about doing it. So here you go. Here's your map. Go do it. I will share with you a number of things in terms of how our organization thinks about this topic. And some of you may have seen this. I actually didn't when I was going through my profile. Jot human behavior enthusiast. I'm a junkie for this stuff. I love reading about why people behave the way they do and why certain societies behave the way they do. And it's spelling wrong. Beliefs, assumptions, attitude, and behavior. You guys have seen this before? How many have seen this before? There's plenty of research that says people's perspective in terms of how they go about doing what they do in life follows this spectrum. You have certain world beliefs that come about through your upbringing, your culture, your life experiences. And these are formed very, very early in life, by the way. Doesn't mean they can't be changed. That drive you to certain assumptions about the world when you look at it, that trigger your attitudes, and ultimately, and I would argue most importantly, behavior. We'll talk about Ernst Young. This is what we care about right here. We care about behavior. Because we have some things we're trying to get done, and I'll talk about what those are. We could sit in a room all day and talk about beliefs, and this person's beliefs are different than my beliefs, and that's absolutely critical, but this is what we care about. So when I was probing you here, I suspect you would tell me at the end of the day, this is what you care about. Not just having a representation in the school of a lot of different beliefs. I can get you that. I can get you I can get a lot of different people into my firm. We're a global firm, so we have these people everywhere. But I could get numbers that represent different beliefs and assumptions. This is what I want. And we'll talk about, in our framework, what types of behaviors we're looking for. The beliefs, let's take the exercise we went through earlier. You were sharing with me some assumptions based upon some beliefs you had, right? Your life experience tells you an old white guy standing there in a dark suit with a white shirt pressed, hair combed nicely. You made a bunch of assumptions about me, right? Many of which, for most cases, in most cases, are very correct, and in many cases are very wrong. And from that came an attitude, whether or not you want to share that with me or admit it. He's a dirty Republican. They don't care about anybody. He doesn't really care about this issue. He's just here so he can go home and say, look, I gave a diversity speech. And then your behavior was, why do I want to listen to this guy? What does he know about diversity? And this is a very, very real thing that makes sense and resonates with me. And I think, look, did somebody open it up somewhere and find the answer in the back of the book? No, but it makes sense to me. And if you have a framework to think about something, then you can start to get at changing people's behavior if you're trying to change their behavior, which in many cases we're trying to change behavior in our organization, or we're trying to foster certain behaviors. Because we're going to talk about diversity in the context of Ernst Young. The landscape's different. I would argue what I heard here was in the context of this community, and when you say they go out to the outside world, well, the outside world, if you look at the United States, it's diverse and it's getting more diverse and more diverse every year. My kids, I went to school in Loudoun County, bunch of white people in my classrooms, 2 African Americans. One guy became my best friend. We played football together. I learned all about fried apples from his mom and plantain and great Southern cooking and the Baptist tradition. None of my friends did. Today, in that same county, the kids my kids go to school with, my kids are like, what? Yeah, she's from Iran, or her grandparents are from Iran. This one's from this. And they're marrying. These people come from their intercultural marriages that, and the kids think nothing of it the way we're like agonizing over it. The United States is changing as well. Now, I will also tell you, having traveled around, and this is the big sort of irony in my mind, there are incredibly homogenous countries out there. Just because somebody comes here to Virginia Tech and stands in front of you and they happen to be from France, or you're like, ooh, look, diversity, they're global. Don't give them that benefit. Let them prove it to you. Because I've been in a lot of these countries, they're incredibly homogenous societies with very stringent rules. And they're not all you got to do. Did you ever travel through Europe? I mean, the European countries in terms of landmass, it's like, going from one country to the next is like getting on I-95 and going from Carolina to Philadelphia, okay? And you know what? The people right across the border, man, they're like, we have this perception, and I hear this a lot when I travel. Have a few drinks with these guys. They're saying, you Americans, you don't know what's going on in the world. I'm like, what do you get? The implication is they're so accepting to other people. The French rip the Italians rip the French, they rip the Brits. So the landscape that you're talking about is very different too. When you're in our business, the landscape of, yeah, it's a diverse world. For us, we have people going overseas that have to work effectively with teams overseas to serve a global client. One context. Another context is this society's changing here, right at home. And the kids that are sitting across from me when it's time to interview are the kids that my kids went to school with. They look very different than I did. It's not just a bunch of white kids. And so that context, you may have different objectives with respect to, with respect to the U.S. market. The firm has an overall transformational priority, that is we want to have a global mindset. Regardless of where it is, we want people to understand the world that they're living in. In many cases, that's coming right to your doorstep in the U.S. It's happening more here, quite frankly, than it is in a lot of these foreign societies. So we're about the behavior. So when I look at our business, awareness to start with self and of others and this issue, and that beliefs, assumptions, attitudes, and behavior, step one. We're investing a ton of money in this. An awareness of that dynamic, both looking in the mirror as well as looking at other people. We invest a lot of money in this. We put stuff up on the boards in the offices. And look, from a practical standpoint, people don't, oh, I'm a diversity expert. You don't wake up every day going, I mean, I'm an accountant and I'm serving clients with a lot of different issues. I'm not waking up every day saying to myself, today I'm going to change social behavior, right? I mean, that's not practical. The issue is, are you cognizant when you make some of those critical decisions in your organization and you're dealing with other people? Your job's still your job. You're trying to educate kids here. That's the other thing I was trying to get at. I suspect what you would say, and all of those comments were absolutely on point, is what you want is you want a diverse student population that is getting their diplomas, that you succeeded in educating those diverse students. A, get them here. B, have them get educated in an incredibly rigorous program and get their diploma and go out into the world as successful people, right? That's the behavior you want from them. You don't want them to either, and so how do you fall short? You fall short because maybe they had a little bit further to go when they got here, let's be honest. That's reality. There's a lot of kids that come into the school that come from different backgrounds, and some are a heck of a lot more prepared to succeed in the growth experience that you're going to give them. Right? Kids come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, my parents weren't, sophisticates. We didn't have a huge library in the house. Some of my friends did. I was terrified. They're better than me. That was hard. That was hard. So what happens when a kid like that comes into the school, right? Is he capable of succeeding? There's a great book that's Talent's Overrated. Anyone read it? People that achieve in the world, they've done all kinds of studies. Is it the people that are predisposed with unbelievable potential? No. It's hard work, believe it or not. But the people that actually achieve, when you go back through, they didn't test out in terms of potentials, whatever it was, athletics, business, intelligence, what have you. Somewhere, good old-fashioned hard work and cultivation enabled them to achieve. So the issue becomes when these kids get here, they're going to come here with different levels of advancement in terms of their ability to progress and succeed in your school. And it can be very easy to be drawn to the student who's a little bit further down the road. So what do? Superstar, kid's bright, right? Superstar. What do? That's the kid that gets the attention. Wow, look at this. It's amazing. These kids are brilliant. Look at this kid. Happens in my business. So you give that kid the attention, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a tough thing for us. That's a really tough thing for us in the business world, because there are a lot of people who will say, not as qualified. Well, qualified for what? Qualified for what? Our business is actually not unlike yours. I'm not coming to campus to hire an expert in consolidation accounting. I'm not coming here to hire an expert in global mergers. I'm hiring kids that have potential, that have attributes. Why? Because when they come into my organization, it's like they're going into the Marines. You're just starting your growth. You're just starting your learning process. I was as green as they come when I started my first year. You think you know a lot, you don't know much till you get out there. So I want kids that have a potential to grow. Okay, so who's more qualified? Qualified for what? Right? Qualified for what? Some are more prepared and further down the road, but does that mean that Dan Lasik, because he got a certain grade point, he showed attributes, and maybe his parents, nurtured him and cultivated him, and he spent more time learning a little more about the business world, and so I could sit there in an interview and they go, wow, this kid, look at this kid. He's inherently smarter than the next. He's more qualified. So you give me the nod, and not the kid over here who may have not come from an environment that cultivated as much, but has every ability to grow and be successful and end up in the stadium with a diploma 4 years from now. And the same thing is true in our business. And it's a tough conversation, because that threshold question of why Lasik, the white kid, who is further down the road, versus these other kids. That's a healthy debate you're going to have. Reverse discrimination, right? Heated, just unbelievably loaded topic. But at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do in our business. Because we understand in our business that we're not, again, very similar to what you're about. We're about growing people over time, growing kids over time. So I'm looking for kids that have potential and have attributes. And I will tell you, it was really hard for me years back when this first became a real significant topic. Say, well, they didn't perform, they didn't do well. You know what people said to me? Then you failed to develop. Oh, what? Because the kid's horrible, or doesn't want to apply himself, whatever. In my business, that person, you failed, Lasik, you failed. Your job is to develop that person. And you know what? The truth's probably somewhere in the middle. And then you really get challenged today. Unlike years ago, you get challenged on what did you do to try to develop that person. So when we look at the outcome, and we have nothing but white males making partner, really, Dan? So there were no qualified female professionals. They're all just bad behavior. They're just not inherently as smart as the white guys. Really? We had nothing to do with the cultivation, giving them opportunity to grow. You were a brilliant guy when you showed up here. I was clueless. I was a train wreck. I had some people that looked at me and said, Lasik, you're Forrest Gump. You're the dumbest thing we ever seen here walking in the door, but we think we can work with you because you run through the wall for us. And I learned over time and met with a lot of success, but it was because of other people that took an interest in me and cultivated me. And so the issue that we have, let me just drop to the bottom here quickly on the practical behavior we're looking for. Awareness, something that's referred to as domain knowledge. Others and self. Connect. Okay. To oversimplify it, step one is behavior or is awareness. Do we even understand, are we aware of how we're making decisions about people? Like the old guy in the white suit. Is he going to go on this job or not? Am I spending the right time with him? What are we asking of our people? Once you're here and you understand this, what are we asking of our people? We're asking them to accumulate domain knowledge. Okay, it's easy to say, it's easy to do this, right? I'm aware of the diversity around me. And I'm okay with it. I get that. Yeah, no, it's great. No, I think it's great that we have these people. Okay? The easy part. That's the easy part. Now the hard work. What do you know about the people sitting around you? What do you know about this kid from Trinidad that is on staff now? Did you spend any time? Do you know anything about his family? Do you know anything about his cultural background? Okay. Accumulating domain knowledge about other people is about doing some hard work. And we have some handouts for you and places you can go to be more worldly. And oh, by the way, we have a day job to do, and it's really tough. The world's gotten more difficult here. So we want you to go invest some time, either through direct interaction with these people and have them share their cultural experiences with you, or go open up a book. I love the travel guides because they have a great summary in the front. When I go to different countries, I always read up about the history of the country, even if it's a synopsis, and the background of the economics and the demographics and the culture, and what's the essence of these people. So that when I go and talk to them, I have some appreciation about who they are and where they're from. I mean, personally, it makes my juices flow. Some people, it doesn't. And so that becomes really hard work for them. And you know what happens? They don't do it. What I want from that, I want people to understand each other. First of all, I want them to be aware of themselves, and I want them to accumulate some domain knowledge about others around them. Not just the people that are working, that are diverse, but if you're serving on a global account, you better get up to speed on what's going on in the economy and the culture and the behavior and the cultural norms of Asian countries and Middle East countries, and you have to. You can't operate effectively. And others are doing it, you're going to get beat in the marketplace. What do I want from that? I want people to come to understand each other. And once you understand each other and you have an appreciation for each other and where they're from, now we're connecting. Now, that's it. Somebody said it earlier, connecting. We work in a business that is incredibly demanding, and it hasn't changed a whole lot. We challenge ourselves to be flexible, but you know what? The market dictates. You want to generate franchise value, fastest, most effective, high quality. It's the people that go, yes, we're ready to go, okay? Try doing that. I played high school football. Man, when you're getting your head beat in, it was really helpful to have a teammate you were connected with that would hit you on the butt and go, hang in there, man. I know he's twice your size, but the butt whipping's only going to be for another 50 seconds and the game's over. I mean, that helped you go to the line one more time and take it. But you want people connected. Because what happens if they're not connected? Virginia Tech. Kid comes in. They're not connected. What happens? Here's the great irony of the issue, right? Diversity. Everybody different. If that's all you have is diversity, you got social entropy. I can give you that. I can go hire people from everywhere. Just bid it up. I want a bunch of people that look different. Bring them in the firm, right? The market will tell me how much I have to pay. I'll get them. Look at me. Look at this. Isn't this great? Look at all these people. Like the Tower of Babel. You know the story, right? Everyone spoke a different language. Nothing got done. That's not what I'm after as a business, and I suspect that's not what you're after as an institution. Because that doesn't accomplish anything, and it's a disservice to those students coming in here. Just saying, look at all the different faces. Woo! This is where you're trying to get. In my business, this is where I'm trying to get. I want to serve clients with the most outstanding answer or service across the globe, because I got others out there that are really good at it. And in my business, we don't make widgets, we don't iPods, where if we could just get the meeting with the client and go, you got to sign a non-disclosure. Look at this new tool that we have. Isn't it great? Nobody else has it. Oh, this is great. No. We basically have a toolbox. And we go out there and we analyze business issues with our clients and we figure out what needs to be done. I don't sell widgets off a shelf. I have people, intellectual capital, that will go out there and work together and tap each other's heads and brains and connect with each other under very difficult circumstances and come up with answers for clients. And they develop trust with the client. And that's connecting not just with amongst ourselves, but with the client. Absolutely critical, because you're working in the trenches on tough issues. My human capital, the asset that our firm has, we have two assets, clients and people. We don't control either one of them. They could be gone tomorrow. I'm bringing these kids in right off your campus. They're green as can be. I got to develop them over time. It's not unlike professional sports models, right? Guy's an outstanding quarterback coming out of school, and like 5 years later, he's missing a step. Why? There's hungry talent coming up right behind him, right? And the teams that win are the ones that cultivate that talent, that unbelievable potential, and are able, it's success when they have a younger guy coming up or a younger woman coming up, making the elder obsolete. That's organizational success, and that's success in my business. I need to develop these people, and I know that's what you're doing too, and that's what you want. You want diverse people coming from a lot of different perspectives while they're here going through this growth experience. It's far more richer for everybody, because they're learning firsthand about the world that we all live in, right? But at the end of the day, that's not all you want. You want them to grow and you want them to develop so that they're legitimately standing there collecting a diploma going, wow, look at that. Look at that. This person will go out there, we've cultivated them, we've transferred knowledge, we've learned more from them, two-way street, but you know what? That person is unbelievably different from when they came in. That's what I need. That's what I need in my business. There are a lot of concrete things that we do as a firm, and I want to change gears here. I'm going way over here. There are a lot of concrete things that we do as a firm to make this happen, but we ultimately want this to happen. And if this isn't happening, this ain't happening. And if this is happening without this, one conclusion is great. We're there, we're in a new paradigm. Guess what? Probably not. Something happened by accident. So I would venture to guess that your objectives are very similar to ours. This is a complicated issue, but this would probably ring true with you given your objectives here and the students. And what oftentimes happens, again, in the awareness level, if we're not aware of that dynamic of what our beliefs are and maybe our assumptions, and we don't challenge ourselves, then the rock band that's looking for a real good drummer passes me up.
Where would you put the idea of working effectively in diverse teams in
Yeah.
that model? You've been talking about it, but
Yep.
the model says work with clients effectively, and
Yep.
the clients will be a diverse lot, so you better
Yep.
understand them. It's personal growth, so that's the development piece, but somewhere here there's also a team element.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we are, in almost all of our significant client service engagements, it's a team approach. People have to work together. what oftentimes happens, and we see this, we measure it, we monitor it very closely, in those teams, when people come into the organization, like any team, you're going to have people, we have a business model that works like this, right? Not everybody is going to move up every year and make partner. So it goes like this, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is people decide, it's grueling, I'm moving on, I'm going to go do something else, our clients hire them away, what have you. But people move on and they leave. The issue is, what are you left with? If it's just a bunch of white guys, then you have to ask yourself, well, what's going on here? Okay? Now let's go back to your question on the team. All right? So now we look at the composition and we go, okay, so we had 10 people on this team. 5 are white guys, 5 are female, and people from different backgrounds, African American, Middle Eastern cultural background, what have you. Okay, now we look forward 5 years. We go, okay, who's still in the ranks? Because there's promotion every year. 3 white guys. What happened? So now we start working our way back, and we want to explore. It's not always that, somebody just discriminated, right? I mean, I think in many ways, the explicit, nasty discrimination, we don't see that as much. So then the question is there something happening here from an environmental standpoint that you're choosing to cultivate that person instead of that person, right? So going back to my example, this particular person was outspoken. Look, it's human nature. You're going to gravitate toward, human beings want to share. They want to share, right? And while it's exciting to interact with people from a lot of, there is a comfort level with people that have a similar shared culture, right? I mean, I feel it, guilty, and I suspect everybody else does. At some level, you feel some affinity because you feel like you share a common culture or history. So it's human nature. You will gravitate in many cases. The question is, in the business context or in our social behavior, are we allowing that to just drive our interaction and ultimately our connection to other people? And human nature, if left to itself, I'm telling you, more often than not, you will slide in that direction. I think it's human nature. I don't think it's people going, oh, African American, I don't want to, okay. I don't do that consciously, but at some level, I think there is an element within all of us where you gravitate toward people. If I'm overseas and I see someone wearing a Virginia Tech hat, hey, I don't know that person. They could have been out on parole, for crying out loud, and jumped the country, right? They're on the run. I don't know, but there's an immediate affinity. Why? Because you feel like you share something. So the point is, to your question, in the team environment, that's where we start with all this. That's where we start with this. And we do some tangible things. You get what you measure. That's what we say. We look at the large global accounts. We look at the big opportunities because those bigger accounts, the higher profile accounts, are the ones where people have the better opportunity to move up, and you're cultivated. You get better experiences. We look at that and we go, we want a diverse team here. Or you better explain why, what's going on. So yeah, absolutely, that is something that is very critical that we measure. There's a lot of education in the firm about awareness, including us going through that type of training, so that we as executives and professionals understand the social science of this, and then we turn around and say, okay, let me see your behavior. And the domain knowledge, we pump this at our people. There's a phenomenal amount of resources available to our people to learn about other cultures. Every day I'm getting news blurbs on the E&Y. We push it at our people. Be globally focused. Know what's going on around the world. Not just, hey, be friendly to someone that looks different than you. That's shallow. I want to turn now to a couple of our professionals, and I'd let you hear from them, and I'd encourage you to ask questions. We wanted to have this, be some observations, not only from Ernst Young and the work experience, but also their college experiences. So let me turn to Ashley and ask her to kick off with the whole issue of diversity and within Ernst Young, and then maybe your experiences here at Tech.
All right, well, I'm Ashley Perry. I just graduated this past May with a degree in accounting and a minor in business diversity. Diversity is definitely, thank you. I saw that diversity was definitely important to Ernst Young through NABA. That's the National Association of Black Accountants. I was the president. And Ernst Young was definitely a heavy recruiter of NABA members. And every time they came, they would definitely push how inclusive and diverse their environment was. And after I did my internship, I just realized how true that actually was. Because they give you mentors during your internship that are, sort of like you. My mentor was Fran Randall. She was actually supposed to be here today, but she had something to do with a client. And she's a Tech alum, and she works for Ernst Young in the Richmond office, which is where I'm going to be working. And she just showed me everything basically I needed to know about Ernst Young, and just gave me background and a lot of valuable information. She really helped me find my, niche within the company. And from a campus point of view, I came from a predominantly Black high school to Tech, and that's a major adjustment. So when I first got here freshman year, I wasn't feeling really included in everything as I am now. But something just as simple, I'll never forget it, it was my chemistry class. It was just as simple as when I came in, I didn't know anybody. I just sat in the middle of the classroom, hoping the teacher, would help me feel more included. And she actually gave us 10 to 15 minutes to talk to our neighbors, whoever we sat beside. And she said, exchange phone numbers, exchange emails. If you have to miss a class, you can talk to this person. Just sort of get to know each other. And in just that one small gesture, I felt more included within the classroom. Also, in my communication skills class, he did sort of like an icebreaker. And we just got to know each other, where we were from. We said some of our similarities. And that was another way that I felt more included within my class environment, because I found similarities with people that I generally would think I wouldn't have much in common with. So those are just some ways I felt more included within the Tech environment that you might want to think about implementing within your own classrooms.
Ashley, when you reflect on your experience here at Tech, well, first of all, question, how powerful is the issue of seeing others like you having gone before? How powerful
That's
is that?
extremely powerful, because it just
And
lets
why?
you
Why is
know that it's attainable. It can be done.
Yeah.
And in some environments where it's probably predominantly white partners or predominantly white environments, you just feel like, okay, where do I fit in? Will I actually be able to take this path that others have taken? And it's sort of intimidating at first, because you're just like, am I really, there's nobody here that's really like me. Would this really actually be able to get done? And I found that when you find someone that's similar to you, that has taken that path, it's more motivation for you to actually get it done.
Yeah. Sarah?
I'm Sarah Lyon. I graduated from Virginia Tech in 2007, and I actually just joined Ernst Young, part of their advisory practice, the end of January of this year. So have a little bit of experience with the team under my belt so far, but I have to brag on the firm a little bit already, because so far it's been a great experience, and I don't have any reason to complain. And I have to say, from a diversity perspective, I've worked for prior to coming to Ernst Young, I worked for a private investment bank in Charlotte. So I was hired as I was the only female at the time in a predominantly white male firm. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. However, I I didn't see myself doing that, long term. And I had a friend who reached out to me who was already with Ernst Young, and she just couldn't stop talking about the opportunities, how she thought I'd be a great fit, how diverse the company was, because I was looking to do something more on a global basis and not just focus in the U.S. So when I joined the firm back in January, I was immediately sent to New York for training, which I'm similar to Dan's background. I went to a predominantly white high school with just a few African American students, and then came to Tech. And so my background really hadn't been very diverse until I joined Ernst Young. But immediately at training, they have a whole section or a couple hours worth just on this topic. And I had looked around the room, and I was one of, out of about 50 people there, I was one of 3 white females. So, and the rest were Asian males, females that were Indian and Latinos. So also being in New York, a much larger, diverse city, but at the same token, I was just a little bit taken back, like, wow, I haven't been in a position like this so far in my career. And they really continue, since I've been on board, to put you, as Dan was saying, in those team situations that are very diverse. I actually work in Charlotte still, and Bank of America is my client, also another global company. The people who I work with, in particular in the risk management area, global risk management. Again, another area where, a lot of my coworkers at the bank they don't speak English as their first language, so there's a language barrier there. Quantitative analysis experts that have been brought in from India and from China and Japan, and it's sometimes hard to reach out to those folks because you don't speak their language, but you try to find a common ground, whether it's the food they eat or the activities that they participate in. And Ernst Young does a great job of pushing those workshops even after you join the firm. We recently had, a couple weeks ago, one that was geared mostly towards women, because as you have noticed and heard already, as you go up the ranks, there's generally white males that make those those partner positions as you make your way up the line. But what they're trying to push is just try to retain those females from various backgrounds and keep the company more diverse. So that's been very encouraging as well, just to see it applied throughout the firm. And then when I was here at Tech, I mean, well, it was a very large school, obviously, but you're put in classrooms with folks of all different backgrounds, and a lot of my friends were that I reached out to and became friends with in business school when I was in my finance classes and accounting. I mean, you're still in a predominantly male atmosphere, but even some of the females are of different backgrounds. So just trying to reach out and form those relationships and find those common grounds, I think is really important in trying to spread inclusiveness. Starting in college, so that when they do get to the real world, they're not in culture shock, and they can, like Ashley's done, those internships really help a lot. If you're from a smaller town that's predominantly white and then come to a school like Tech, that you really experience those firsthand here, and then you'll be ready for your career.
Pause. Questions for our folks at this point about what we do in the firm, or experiences in the firm, or experiences here at Tech? No questions at this point? I think I asked Ashley about seeing people that come from a similar background, that have gone before. I think the issue of role models, it's unbelievably powerful. I mean, I look at myself, like I said, I would have never progressed up if there weren't people that I wasn't looking to in some way model myself after. And the notion of mentors, and I define a mentor, we do a lot of stuff from a formal standpoint. Assign mentors. I always say, well, that's kind of tough, isn't it? It's like assigning a friend. Because I think I think mentors are just that. They're friends. They're people that you can sort of go, it's time out right now. It's time out. And you can trust them to have an open and honest conversation without, without the rules are sort of suspended.
My question is, for your seminars, and perhaps some other training, what actually is required? And the reason I ask that is my observation in a lot of these forums, they're voluntary, and so we end up seeing the same people over and over again, but you end up having to preach to the choir with that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if in a environment like yours, it's required, so you end up reaching the masses, and everyone is hearing the same
Yeah.
message. Because I think that would have a different effect.
Yeah, I think, let me talk a little bit about some of the specific concrete things and how those have changed pretty dramatically during my career. All of our, at certain levels, we have curriculum of required formal training. We know that most of the development comes from experiential learning. Most of the development of our professionals over time comes from being on a job and working through and applying themselves, serving clients over time. And every year, we have basically an up or out sort of business model. It's not like you can be a second-year staff person and go, this is pretty nice, I'll just stay here for the next 10 years. It doesn't work that way. So every year you're being asked to assume additional responsibilities. That's incredibly challenging. And most of the learning occurs in that environment. So the mentors and the people that get attention within the context of those teams, I have people working under me, all right? Do I spend time with those people to explain what I'm doing, the broader picture of what's happening, and am I educating them real time about what their responsibilities are going to be like in the year to come? That's where most of our learning actually happens in terms of individuals. And I was starting on the mentor issue. Mentors are the most powerful aspect of that development. And if I, as a leader in the firm or a more experienced person, I'm looking at my job and either the composition of that job doesn't have any diversity, number one, or number two, I'm not spending any time with these three staff people over here, but I'm spending time with this guy talking about who won the football games in college football this weekend or whatever, and here's two Asian female professionals, I don't know diddly about them. Well, how are they getting any development at all? And so I will tell you, in our organization, this awareness comes in the form of formal training for us to be in classrooms talking about the social science of all this in these forums, and that's incredibly helpful because if you just tell people, I'm going to measure you on whether you're developing people, they go, well, I don't know what that means. What's the expectation? So you need to do that. You need to educate them and say, this is what I'm talking about. And then today, as a partner, it's right at the top of the list in terms of how I progress in the organization and how people that are in leadership roles progress in the organization. It's very specific. I just completed my goals for the next year. I had an hour-long discussion with a partner, and they said, oh, you're active with, you know what? This is helpful, but they don't, thank you very much, but that's not what they want to know. Oh, you spoke about diversity. Okay, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. Who is it? Who are those people? Who are they? What are their cultural backgrounds? What's your objectives for those people next year? And I can go through the list of who those people are. And they want to know, how are they diverse? What's their background? What's their strengths and weaknesses? What are their anxieties? I spent a half hour talking about, this is my goals for the next year. I spent a half hour talking about other people that are working for me. And oh, by the way, they're going to go talk to those people. So it's very real. And within our organization, you got a lot of guys and people with different attitudes that go, they're angry. This isn't an easy issue. So I don't know formally what, happens within the college ranks, but if I start sitting you down at the end of the year as your supervisor, and we're going to have a half-hour discussion about who came out of your program and who survived, and give me 3 names of people that were diverse where you went out of your way to reach out to them. Who are they? What have you been doing to accumulate some domain? Do you know the composition of your classes? And who are your superstars? Can you name 3 people that come from culturally diverse backgrounds? Give me a couple of observations about them. What did you do? Did you connect with them? How'd you connect with them? Did you offer to have coffee with them? Did you reach out and say, hey, look, you're in my classroom, but I never see you at office hours. Why don't you stop by? I wanted to go through a few things just to have a conversation. Guess what? That's how I do it. I mean, I call a staff person they're like going, oh my God, the old white guy with the starched shirt and just called me. What's going on? I mean, they're freaking out. And then they get to know, it's just Dan. He's a nut. He's a nut with too much. That's the other one I forgot to put up there, my kids. Nut with too much time on his hands. It's unbelievable. Like, I can see it. I look at people that I have had the opportunity or taken the time to develop that relationship. It's unbelievable how different the interaction and dynamic is. Because I tell you what, I'm going into a board meeting looking like this at Gannett. I'm going into a board meeting at Marriott International looking like this, and you'd think that I'm reading off, the evening news. I mean, I'm that structured. But in terms of developing my people, they're not ready for that yet. If that's all they see, they're not going to grow. They want my opinions about how to interact with people, and why can't they get the people in the Middle East to commit to delivering that stuff by Tuesday when the client wants, well, there's a different cultural focus over there. And they want my opinion on things. And they don't want to just hear about accounting. They want to hear about what Dan's doing after work and laugh and joke and talk about. And my dynamic with those, it's funny because I watch one staff person who I haven't had the opportunity to do that with. They just haven't worked with me. And others that are the same ranks. And the people that I'm connected with, they come to me and go, God, they are terrified. They're like, what are you doing walking in there horsing around with Dan Lasik? He's this big partner. That's what we're talking about. And we measure that at the manager, and if you're in a supervisory role at all, we're going to have a hard discussion about that. And we have upward feedback. Talk about being blindfolded and getting punched. I don't know where it's coming from, but lines are open. Tell us about Dan Lasik. He's a creep. He doesn't spend any time with me. Oh, yeah. And then someone sits down with me and says, so how did the year go? My people love me. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Mentor people? Oh, yeah, I'm a great mentor. Yeah, no, yeah, oh, really? Okay. All right, okay, let's have a little discussion in the comment section, right? Doesn't give me the time of day. I've been there. And then I got to think, it's a little difficult because you get defensive. Oh, well, who was that? Who hit me? We do that. And my supervisor sits down, people above me that decide how the fruits of our labor get divvied up. They've got it. This is coming directly from the people that work for me. And they write whether I was a good mentor, and they give their commentary, and it's all anonymous, and we have that discussion. So it's very real in our business. When you look at your question in terms of the training and whether things are mandatory, I would say this. There are a lot of things that are optional. We spend a lot of money and we offer development resources to our people. And then there are some very real concrete things, and particularly as you move up in the organization, you're held accountable. You're held accountable. When they look at numbers and they say, I don't get it. Why are the people that got promoted on the Marriott International account white guys? What happened? Here, this was the makeup before. We're going back to the comment before. You failed to develop. What did you do? What happened here? And some people go, well, maybe the guys are the most qualified, right? We're going to have that debate. Complicated issue. But then they'll come back to you and say, no, we didn't say that they were all starting for the same spot. But you obviously cultivated them and chose to spend time with them and not them. Look, are some people never going to be qualified? Yes, absolutely. But zero, right? Something's not right. And I'm held accountable for that in the firm. So it's, you know, and for me personally, in terms of my experience, you know, for me, I would argue it was a little bit easier because this is an area that I gravitated toward. When I was at Tech in the mid-'80s, this is a phenomenal technology school. We had a lot of exchange students that were here. I remember that was like surprising to me when I came into the school. I'm like, wow, there's a fair amount of diversity of exchange students. And I had a passion for government and politics. I thought I was going to make history someday and be an ambassador or whatever. And I would go to these affinity groups. I mean, I couldn't wait. Like the Arab and Israeli, the Syrian ambassador as a guest speaker at this thing. I'm like, oh man, this ought to be great. And I would go like the only white guy sitting in these affinity groups on campus. I loved it. I loved it. I had friends that were State Department officials. I lived in Hong Kong between my freshman and sophomore year. I loved learning about other people. And so it was a passion for me. And I took the time to accumulate domain knowledge because that was something I gravitated toward. That's not an easy thing for a lot of other people. It takes time. It takes hard work. And yeah, we hold our people accountable to spending the time here, not just anecdotally. Because you're never going to really connect with somebody just because you showed them some pointers about the work. It's got to be beyond that. You got to go beyond that. You got to get to know them as people, know what they're doing outside of work, and you got to open yourself up to that too. Yeah, I think as individuals within your classroom, look, there's a lot of discretion that you have in terms of how you present information to the students, how you weave in your color commentary on things, and the time and attention you give to specific students. Now, I know in this school it's unbelievable, right? I mean, you have thousands of students. I know that the template here, it's not, one of my favorite classes here was Issues in Contemporary American Society. It was how I got into class, I don't know, but I loved it. There were 10 students and we would have a round table. I mean, we had like a diverse group of kids from different, and we would argue about these issues. I know that's not the classroom template, it's tough. But I think if you reflect on where you do make an impact on students, right? You're not just standing up on a stage and then Elvis has left the building, right? I suppose you have some direct interaction with these students either in office hours or not. Reflect and think about that in terms of your own behavior. Maybe you're totally passive and you go, okay, well, office hours, whatever, and then they come to you, right? Okay, so look at who's coming to talk to you, right? And then think to yourself, is there a way to reach out to some of these other students? In some of those classes, you can connect with them, right? How do you make that happen? How do you make it happen to get some time with those students and find out what they're going through? I think it's on two fronts. One is there's, from the podium, when you're presenting things, how do you present it? Do you weave in some personal experiences? Do you try to take that issue? I'm not talking about, I know you got a lot of data and knowledge and information has to get to these students, but carving out some time and weaving in this topic of diversity. Let's use teams, right? I don't care what the subject matter is. You're going to work on teams, okay? Take a few minutes and say, hey, let's think about this. Don't just run off and do this project. In the real world, you're going to have people that come with, actually, I think it's an attribute issue more than it is just cultural. Different people have different attributes. I'm a big thinker. What happens with a bunch of big thinkers? We all go in a room, we go, ooh, big plans, right? Nothing gets done, right? You all heard that. And the little nitty-gritty detail people, they're in there analysis paralysis. So just just saying that pointing that out to the students to think about it, think about the dynamic in your group, and think about the cultural background of your people. You're going to need to connect with each other beyond just the task at hand to have an effective team. Throw that out to them. Here are some suggestions. Get to know each other beyond just this task. Find out their background, find out their strengths and weaknesses, have that discussion. Weave that in. I don't care what the topic is, you can do that. And ask people to connect with each other on that front. And say, look, some people are going to be very withdrawn. They're going to have, there's some cultural background. We see that all the time. I'm not going to get into generalities here, but I've been overseas for serious training on that. Different generalizations of different cultures and how they behave and how you have to understand that to work effectively. So you can weave that in to the classroom environment. And beyond that, if you're talking about some subject matter, I suspect in today's environment, you can get outside of our shores and try to tie it into something that's happening globally. And in the financial world, you know, we live that all the time. I'm a junkie. Everything's about what's happening in Europe, and it's fascinating to me because it's more than just economics. It's demographics, it's cultural norms. I mean, I love that. Put some of your own color commentary into that, in your subject matter. Talk about what's happening overseas and get that discussion. And again, I know you're going, are you kidding me? I get an hour with these kids, and 20 minutes in, you're looking at this. Yeah, I'm going to defer to the school on this. This is a hot item right now. I've heard discussed certainly in high school education whether or not faculty should be. The medium is incredibly powerful, but I'm not going to make a suggestion there because I think there's a lot of issues that are being worked through. It may be more. Less of an issue to leverage that technology at the university level. Certainly, it's a hot, heated issue right now in the K through 12 realm. But the technology, I'll take it a step back from just Facebook. The technology is something that can be leveraged as well. I think people are still a little queasy. My professor just sent me an email to talk about my personal, right? It's kind of a weird thing. Maybe it shouldn't be, but I'll leave you guys to discuss that one. The technology is clearly a medium that could enable people to get connected. There's some other social issues that arise. Again, it's a complicated issue.
In your mentoring and diversity training, do you encourage your folks to learn some foreign languages?
We encourage, yes. We try to ask our people. Now, we're not saying, hey, go out and buy Rosetta Stone and everyone learn a foreign language. I think from a practical standpoint, we ask our people to invest personal time to gain an understanding of what's happening globally. Now, the firm has as a major initiative mobility of our people. And so we do have an exchange program around the world. People can raise their hands, and we encourage it, to go live overseas for a couple of years and work in a different geography. And oftentimes those professionals, when they do that, want to take up a foreign language. Either they have some basis already, or they go deep on it when they head overseas. So the firm encourages that. There again, oftentimes it can be very easy and comfortable for me to just grow people in my geography. It can be tough managing a global exchange program. It's harder as a manager. They're like, uh-oh, so we're going to send someone over here for 2 years, then they want to come back to this geography, the market's changed, we're looking at economics. Is there a spot for this person now in the pecking order? Do they come back and make partner? What about the person that's been here? it's a lot of complications. Having said all that, the firm encourages that, and we have a lot of people. I've worked a lot with those people on, for instance, Marriott, where I've had people, they'll sign a 2-year commitment to an office in China and be there for 2 years, and then I bring them back and they work on my account. So when they do move internationally, we encourage them to, dive in all things, foreign in the geography they're going into, including language. That's a tough thing, though, to learn on the fly. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, you talk about behavior, and I think it's an important experience. And how are you getting beyond that traditional interview process to kind of identify those individuals who fit into your organization?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. There again, it's more complicated today than it was before. Although I would say this, regardless of the cultural background, there are certain attributes. We hire attributes. I mentioned that before. In one respect, a lot of these students that come to us, regardless of their cultural background, have phenomenal experiences that demonstrate those attributes. It jumps off the page at you. Now, it may be that their social interaction is a little bit different. And again, you need to get, I feel like I'm way beyond that bias, but you're going to have people that come to you that present in a certain way and others that don't. But you look at their experiences, and we do a lot of probing in terms of conversation. Tell me what you did here to me. And quite frankly, I don't care what it was. I'm looking for a certain behavior. Did you take responsibility? Were you in hardship? Did you have to adapt to other people? Did you have self-control? And I will tell you one thing, that grade point average is a composite of managing a lot of different things. It means a lot to me as the starter. And then I'm going to probe on their personal experience. You can get that from kids from any background. So I think in terms of the hiring in on day one, we feel pretty comfortable that we're not picking someone that just will never grow in our organization. We feel pretty comfortable that we're getting the right attributes. The real challenge begins at that point. It really does. And what we do from that point forward and how we connect with them. And because again, I just want to say one more thing on this, the connection issue. You could have people that are incredibly talented and have potential. If they're not connected, the morale issue is a huge issue. You could be really great and have unbelievable potential to grow. If you're not connected, I don't care how great you are on paper, at some point, you're just not giving it everything. And it's very demanding to grow. My personal view is when people grow together, that's a hard thing. Like learning is a hard thing. You're changing. I remember my 2 days in football practice. Man, you came through that, you were dying. But when you come out the other side, having shared that with other people around you, there's an incredibly strong affinity that you have for people that you went through that with. And that's the challenge for us in terms of people being connected. It's not just that we didn't spoon feed this person enough. It's that they need a desire. Their development starts with them. I believe that learning is an inherently personal thing. If you don't take a mental bite of what you're telling your students, it's not going to take. So it's all about them. And if they don't have the connection, they don't have the morale and the will to stretch themselves, they're not going to grow, they're not going to prosper, and then they go, this place is not for me, and they move on. That's the crux of our issue. We invest in affinity groups where we encourage different cultural backgrounds to establish affinity groups, just like similar to what Tech had when I was here. We asked them, we'll have days in the office. It may seem like a simple thing, but it's big. Asian American culture, to African American. You know, they bring in food. It's a way to educate, invite everyone in to talk about their culture and experience some of that. And they connect with each other. So those are all things that we put money behind and we encourage people to get. We want our old white guys to show up at those things. But at the end of the day, it's that connection with the individual and the time I'll invest with them that will make them grow. And I'm sure in your case, you know, will translate into those people getting their diploma here.
Dan, I think we have time for one more question.
Yep.
And then there's some closure we'd like to bring.
Terrific. Other question?
I was just curious, you said that there are experiences and things that jumped off the resume that you know, were of interest to you. Could you give us a few examples of what those things are or what
Yeah.
those experiences are?
Yeah. You have, and a lot of it's from my frame of reference, some of these kids come from unbelievable backgrounds, challenging backgrounds. Today, it seems like single parents is the norm. And you probe, and they open up a little bit, and they start talking about just the baseline, where they came from, and like, well, yeah, my parents got divorced, and my dad moved here, and it was really tough because, my mom was trying to hold down a job for a time. I lived with my mother, and so I knew I had to have a job. And boy, oh boy, calculus is really tough. And I probe. I'm asking these things. You know, once they start, I don't say, tell me about your personal life. Once they start, then I've got a line of questioning I'm probing. I want to understand more and more. How challenging? What was that like? It's a little more practical. When you got up in the morning, how did you get through that? And what comes out the other side is some of these kids have overcome obstacles I would have never overcome. I mean, I have some kids from other countries that like came here by themselves because their parents said, you should go to America. Like, what? I can't imagine that. I mean, my mother bawled all the way down 81 when she dropped me off here, and I was teary-eyed I'm like, what? Like, what? And, well, who did you come here with? What was waiting for you? And tell me about how there was a plane ticket and the father knew somebody. It was the father's friend that knew this guy from, a trip in the Orient. They contacted the person, said, yeah, I would house your child, and spoke broken English. I'm just like, a bunch of Americans, or my kids are whiners. I mean, it's fascinating to me to actually do these interviews sometimes. And some of these kids in this country that come from unbelievable backgrounds where they just had to overcome. You know why? Because there was no choice in many cases. You can see it, that there weren't options that would distract in many cases. And so when I hit a gusher like that and you go through, first of all, the kids sitting before me, they did a whole lot right because they came through this institution and got a grade point average that was a good grade point average in order to be sitting in front of me to start with. So then, a lot of them didn't come from the pristine, cultivated background that I did, or a lot of people that had more cultivation than me. They came from a heck of a lot more challenging circumstances. So there's a whole interesting story I can't wait to get behind. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I had a kid that spoke no English, came here, was failing, wanted to go back to Korea, had some friends that said, no, you can do it, you can do it. I'm looking at the grade point average going, this is unbelievable. How did you learn English and get through all of that? So yeah, there are some amazing stories. That a lot of these people, I'm not saying everyone that's diverse comes from crazy challenges. That's not my point. But people do come from a lot of different cultural backgrounds, and they're not cultivated here in the American way that gives them a head start. They're not. And so they got to my desk by doing some incredible things. One more?
Just a question for Ashley.
Yep. Yep, okay, will do.
I chose tech because I came here for Hokey Focus, and I just fell in love with the campus. And then also financial aid helped. And then it's the perfect distance from home for me. I wanted to be not close enough for my mom to just hop in the car and come. Just, close enough for her to call and plan a trip, But also I did Gateway Weekend, which is sort of, it's a program through tech, through the admissions office, and it's basically minority and first generation students gets to come here for basically a weekend and basically see what it's like to be a college student. And I just fell in love after that. I got to know the Black community, and I saw myself fitting in here, and that's sort of why I chose to come to tech.
I hope that you'll join with me in thanking the group from Ernst Young. I think Dan's done a wonderful job as far as discussing different issues and values and the way that the firm actually implements those values by holding people accountable for the success in their particular areas. I very much appreciate Ashley being part of the program and sharing her experiences, as well as Sarah sharing your experiences here at the university, and I know that you'll be available for other discussions. One of the reasons we wanted to host this program was because we know that Ernst Young, through their activities and their interaction with the university, has made a very, very significant commitment towards diversity. And you can tell by the things that they've done, the programs here at Tech that they've supported, that's been a major goal for them. And actually, it's allowed them to be more successful relative to their recruitment of students into their firms. About 15 years ago, the Pamplin College actually made a statement as far as diversity as a core value that's included as far as a brochure that is for the Business Diversity Center. And we really believe that diversity brings value to the organization, brings value to the things we do, and we believe that this whole issue as far as values influence what our decisions are and influence our behavior. And we're hoping that the students will adopt the appropriate values that allow them to value diversity and make the appropriate decisions. I think all of you know that the university itself, in having developed the principles of community a number of years ago, that was approved by the Board of Visitors. It actually had the chairman of the Faculty Senate, the chairman of the Staff Senate, the chairman of the Student Government Association also adopted the statement of principles of community that are important to us and guide what we do. We're very fortunate that we have a special guest with us today. I think you know that the Board of Visitors are appointed by the governor and have the responsibility for serving as the Board of Directors, or full responsibility for the university and its activities. And that as such, the person that actually chairs the Board of Visitors holds the title of Rector. We're very pleased to have the Vice Rector of the Board of Visitors, Shelley Duke, who also chairs the Academic Affairs Committee of the Board of Visitors. They're the ones that make all the decisions having to do with promotion and tenure and honorifics. Just to briefly share with you the commitment of the Board of Visitors to diversity here at Virginia Tech. Shelley?
Thank you very much, Rich. Isn't it a shame that poor Dan doesn't share his passion about what he does? Dan, thank you. What a great presentation. As Dean Sorensen has indicated, as chair of the Academic Affairs Committee, we care about demographics. We are acutely aware of the diversity fallout, those faculty members that just disappear, and the students that drop out. And it is a mandate that diversity is top priority within this institution. Furthermore, that the internationalization of this institution is as important. If you internationalize, you're diverse. If you diversify, you must internationalize. So they go hand hand in hand. And the academic affairs can take action and recommendations to the entire board, which it does. And the board's basic responsibility is not to manage, not to administer, not to interfere. We're a policy-making board. So we have a lot of interaction with faculty and staff and students. And we're in the process now of writing our next 6-year strategic plan. And I am here to tell you that diversity and globalization are absolutely number 1 and 1. Thank you very much. I'm elated to see that, and this is a very strong message to me that I will take back to the board, that this presentation by E&Y was so well attended, in fact, oversubscribed. So thank you for your interests. Take Dan's advice as to how you can take to your fellow staff members or your students what you can do to make sure that diversity and inclusiveness is in your world all the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shelley. In closing, we do have boxed lunches available for the participants. Nicole, could you tell us what the arrangements are? I think there's some rooms available also where people might be able to have that and partner and meet. Could you share that with us?
Yes, the box lunches are right out here. You can pick them up, and if you need to leave, you can take them with you. We do have seating available in Latham Ballroom B. If you want to stay and network and speak with our Ernst Young representatives here, or just amongst yourselves and brainstorm and come up with additional ideas for what you can do here at Virginia Tech. So it's Latham Ballroom B in St.
So please do take a box lunch. Latham Ballroom B is available to us. We do have another group coming in here, so we'll ask that we might vacate the room. But please join with me one more time in thanking Ernst Young for their program.
Thank you. Thank you.